All right, welcome everyone to this month's second hangout, the second Thursday hangout of the month with Exo Metaverse. Tonight we have a very special guest, Sylvain Rocham, and he is the Vice President of the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact. And they are starting a conference on October 6th to start to announce more seriously what they've been working on for 48 years. They have $50 million in the bank. They have 500,000 supporters, and they are going to be placing an ET embassy on this planet. So we're so excited to have you tonight, Sylvain.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here to talk to all these lovely people about our project.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to do a few announcements. If you're out there in the broadcast in Portal to Ascension or New Realities, I invite you to get into the Zoom. The link is below. This will give you a chance to be in the hangout rooms. So we know that it's really fun to get to hang out and talk with fellow people that are in the galactic movement. And we'd love to have you meet some new people tonight. So this is a great way to get links, chats, and things like that. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to do a couple announcements before we get started. So here we go. So like I said, you can visit the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact online. And you can see the timeline. They started in 1974, and we are now only 8 years away from the actual embassy, which is going to go into caretaker mode, awaiting the extraterrestrial civilization to Earth. So they have an incredible list of scientists that are participating in this project. Isaac Mars is also going to be joining this incredible team. He was on our last Exo Consortium Hangout, third Thursday. So again, all these incredible minds from every single country all around the world are starting to bring this new knowledge down. And like I said, on October 6th, they're having an incredible conference. We get a discount here, so we're going to share that in the chat. And again, they also have some incredible swag, and they've decided to donate all the proceeds to Exo Metaverse, our nonprofit, to support the software that we're building for the community. So if you want to spread the word about this and have some great conversations, because tonight we're going to get some of the skinny on this, go to the conference website. Again, the link is here that you can check out. I wanted to have a special welcome tonight to Jonah, Daniel's baby, starseed baby that was born very, very recently. So we just want to welcome him into the world and congratulate everybody on this incredible new life we have to welcome. I also want to thank Sedona Quantum Consciousness for supporting financially the software that we're building. And also Alan Steinfeld of New Realities, thank you for supporting and co-broadcasting with us. Of course, everybody's read the book, and Daniel was reading it when the baby was being born out loud, the section on hybrids. So it's really exciting, all the information that's coming through and being shared. And we thank Neil as well, the Portal to Ascension, for also sharing our work with the world. So Costa is gearing up again. Just want to remind you that closest to the new moon, the Saturday closest to the new moon, is when you should call your friends, invite them to your porch. It is much easier to see a UFO when you're with other people. So invite your friends over and get on the map and let's make some contact. So I just want to remind you kind of the events that we're doing. So the first Sunday is spoon bending. The second Thursday is this public Exo Hangout, which we're doing tonight. Third Thursdays is the Exo Consortium. This is open to organizations that are working in the space. Feel free to contact us at team@exometaverse.org if you'd like to share your news about what you're working on with the world. The fourth Thursdays is our Exo Metaverse Hangout, members only. And this month, we're going to have Preston Dannett, who is incredible. He's written 28 books and 100 articles about UFOs, and Daniel's going to be interviewing him. He's just an incredible resource for the community, and we're so excited to have him. So if you're not a member, it's $44 for the entire year of spoon bending and hangouts. So it's a great it's a great time. And you know, we have some incredible news to share with you guys. So last Sunday we did our spoon bending, and there was some ladies visiting Sedona for a 7-figure mastermind, and these ladies were indomitable. They started bending forks without touching them. So they were doing it fully with their minds. We laughed. We couldn't believe it. So we've reached now graduate level bending. We also sprouted seeds in our hands. So this was really a testament to the power that, as Isaac said, consciousness is the ultimate technology, right? So when we come together, enjoy, this is when forks start to bend, right? So we really invite you to come and experiment with your own consciousness, enjoy with us on the first Sundays. So I also want to let you know, we're launching some augmented reality. This is open tonight, and it'll be through the weekend. And again, this will be supporting our software. I don't know if the music's playing because I'm not sure I checked the box when I shared the screen, but they're super fun. So I want to talk a little bit about our collective intelligence before we dive into the interview. So last week, we were working with Krista Risa, and she was talking about finding your purpose. Now, this is something that's so important to us all, and I just want to share and highlight some of the results here. So in our group, 50 or 55% know their purpose, right? So it doesn't mean that you need to know your purpose at all times. It just means, like, because it may change throughout your life, but it's something that's really important to know what lights you up, what you're excited about, what you love, right? And when we ask people what were the best tools for them to find their purpose, the number one thing that they put was connection to a higher source. 2, life experiences, meditation, writing and journaling, psychic readings and channeling, trial and error, and asking for a sign. And one of the most super fascinating things that happened was that when we asked the people who hadn't found their purpose what they think would be most helpful, it was the exact same 7 things that the people who'd found their purpose thought would be useful. So in other words, this means that when you go into your gut and you think, well, you know, I need some advice, ask yourself, right? Because you know the answer, right? So when you connect to yourself and when you pay attention, this is where you're going to get the answers. We thought that was really fascinating. And yeah, so it's funny because the people who hadn't found their purpose also thought that hypnosis would be a good way, or connecting with their ET selves. But hypnosis actually wasn't something that people who found their purpose thought was helpful. So hypnosis might not be the thing for that. It does help you rewrite your subconscious mind, but I encourage you to look at the results of that. And you can find that on the Exometaverse news page right there. So I just want to invite you now to take the survey here, exometaverse.org/week 32. That is where we're going to be talking about the ET embassy, and we're going to share the results. We asked them where this embassy should be placed and also who should be the ambassadors, and we got some really fun responses that we're going to share with the audience. So before we start, we always do our moment of silence. Again, if you're joining us live for the broadcast, please jump into the Zoom at exometaverse.org/hangout. And we're going to spend 1 minute in silence here before we get started. And this is our chance to tap into the field. And here we go. So here we go. You know, Sylvain, one of the things I love a lot of things about you. I love your energy. I love that you're a tech genius. I love that you're an entrepreneur. I love that you've been knowing what your purpose is since a young age. I love that you're galactic. I love that we talk about all the fun things we're going to do in the Embassy Village with our Airbnb apartment or whatever. And I love that you're so optimistic. In fact, you wrote a book called Engineering Paradise, which I sped read today. And I just want to thank you for your optimism and your foresight and your long vision and all that you're doing for this community. You know, you're so you really are someone that should lead this kind of consortium kind of feeling, because you're a team player, and we love you for that. So I think the audience really wants to know about the embassy, and you can share the screen. Just paint us a picture of what this is like and where it's going, and all about the conference. And then we'll talk about some other things as well, but we'd love to hear about that first.
Yeah, sure. We'll see if I'm going to share the screen or not. I think I do have some pictures that could be interesting, but well, let's start with this. I will share my screen because why not, huh? So it started with the blueprint. Okay, this is the old blueprint, and it's an old mock. This comes from its origins. Basically, 1974. The reason why this started in 1974 is because it was a man called, originally called Claude Variant in France, met with a person in an old volcano in France, the Puy de la Sola, I think it is the name of it. And he met an extraterrestrial that came down in a flying saucer, bell-shaped, as you can see that the pool there, there's a bit of a design there. And the extraterrestrial says, well, I'm Yahweh. Like, I created life here, and here's my message. Basically, he met him for 7 days, to make a long story short. And part of that encounter was, well, like actually the extraterrestrials, which call themselves Elohim, which means those who came from the sky. Okay. They said, well, like, do you mind if you take up a mission for us? Because we want humanity, we created humanity, but we want to be welcomed. We don't want to arrive and say, hey, here we are, and kind of impose ourselves. So your mission is going to be to make people aware of their origins through by disseminating this information, this book, and also by creating an embassy, okay, for extraterrestrial with certain specifications. So and from there he created what's called now the Raelian movement, within which the volunteers raised money in part to operate the movement and its activities and activisms, but also for the embassy. This is 1974. Okay. So the movement grew. Now it's about 130,000 members or adepts, and some.
Stop sharing your screen because we want to see your face too.
Sorry, because I was kind of going to, thank you. So some have been donating and others over many years. And of course, this money has been staying there and being invested and, being fructified. So in total, the access is around $50 million US, right? And what happened, and I'm a member of this organization. I have since I'm 15 years old, okay? So I'm well aware of the mission and what's going on within that particular organization. And then in January last year, I told the one responsible for that project within the movement. I said, well, this is a project for the whole planet, not just for one organization. This is really for everybody. It's just like it's always been for everybody, but we've kind of kept it to ourselves here, right? So I said, well, yeah, you're right. So what do you suggest? I said, well, how about we create an association that is outside of this particular philosophy and way of thinking that could be universal and can allow everybody that wants to support the idea to connect and work together as volunteers and kind of join forces and kind of do all this great stuff. And say, well, that's a great idea. So we did do that. And that was when the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact was born. And now the AEDC for short, right? We are like many volunteers. I don't know how many, in 3 different groups, probably close to 18 to 20 to 2 dozen volunteers from all over the place, all sorts of philosophical inclination and paths of life and interests, but they all want to push in the same direction. We have like currently 15 organizations, mostly North American, some South America, and one new organization, interestingly, from Russia. And they are wonderful people, by the way, scientists from Russia that have been thinking the same thing since the late 90s as an organization. And they say, well, look, space is like humanity is one, space is for everybody. Nations are being like traditional ancient national thinking. They're not thinking about the future and how we really are as humanity, and how we there's abundance and unity and all that stuff, like all great thinking. So we got all these groups together. So now we total 15 organization, nearly 525,000 supporters as an organization, and growing with interest and all sorts of really great connections. And the thing is, what's really fun for me as an entrepreneur is that I don't have to raise money. Because that's usually the hardest thing to do. Like the railing movement is just there. It's like, look, this is also our project. We're participating in this with the alliance, with the others. That money, is for everybody, right? Like we need, to pay for the building, like to the construction specifically. There are rules and logic to the madness. And so our focus is really more on the diplomatic contact with the UN, getting engaged with the diplomats and the national leaders. And I saw a couple of questions out there. Yeah, some we've distributed in 2019, so that's pre-alliance, a document, basically a business plan to all nations of the earth, like at least 200. So because I know there are more than 200, but some of them are tiny, and I think we couldn't reach them all, I think. And ask them, like, hey, if you want to participate, like it's not really first come, first serve, but kind of, because there's only going to be one. We don't have funds for 3. We're only going to build one, right? And if it's on your land, the seminal moment of official landing at a place that United Nations agree is the place is going to be on your territory, and therefore, for a while and for many, many years and perhaps generations, your country and your land is going to be the center of humanity because of that seminal moment, and ability to, and a location where the first contact happened and where there's going to be further visitations and diplomatic missions under the Vienna Convention. And that's why it's kind of complicated, because, having funds and a piece of land is easy. And there's a lot of people around the planet that have done that. But the challenge is it needs to be one that is official by the United Nations and national leaders. It needs to be recognized as an official place for diplomatic contact. It just can't just be a building built somewhere, right? So there's all this work that is more diplomatic and kind of getting noticed and getting engaged with politicians. That's why we have a team in Geneva that does that. We have a team of architects that works on design and development. We have a pretty famous city planner working with us, like nonstop. I'm there with a bunch of volunteers, and we have a bunch of wonderful community leaders, including Zanka here and Costa and several others that are super excited about it. We just welcome them, like, look, come on in. Yes, we're all going to work together because it's all volunteers. It's always have been volunteers, and to influence the planet into developing into the mindset of a truly international or galactic civilization, which means stop the squabbles between us nations completely, because that's not the behavior of a mature civilization, right? So that's the history and kind of like the up-to-date thing. And we wish the alliance to evolve further to become even more international, multiple language, which is probably going to be Spanish and Russian and perhaps other languages pretty quick because of the affiliations we have and the interest we have. And we're gathering even more and more prominent, more like let's say mainstream science type of individuals, because of reputation and kind of like how we present ourselves, which is partly why we build the alliance in the first place, to look and feel more legit, like on the world stage, right? And as that builds, then the cautiousness regarding doing actual contact and encouraging the United Nations and world leaders to feel safe to talk about it, because it is still a bit taboo, even though disclosure and all this stuff has happened. Then, you know, establishing that embassy is going to be it's going to be a big step, and then building after that takes just a few years. You know, groundbreaking and all these it still takes a few years. It's not quick, but it'll get done at that point. So long story, but I think I covered all the different bases.
Yeah, so I'm gonna share. I've got your website up here, and again, if you feel like called to volunteer, contact at allianceforet.org. And they're going to need everyone. They're going to need people to translate things. They're going to, it's incredible that you have all these teams, the architects. So one of the things I really loved hearing about was you talking about how that there's a duplicate version of the embassy that we'll be able to, since the embassy you mentioned was going to be really for diplomatic conversations and stuff, we can't just be walking around there, but that they're going to build another version of it. And talk a little bit about the vision and the long-term plans to create a space for innovators and things like that. So give us an idea of what this is going to look like, because we're only 8 years away, according to your plans, actually getting the Vienna Convention and UN set up. And then what happens after that? And what kind of VR stuff are you going to be showing at the conference and things?
Nice. Yeah. So let's talk about the embassy project in a more detailed way, right? The simple description, I usually talk about the embassy proper, but in reality, something like that is going to be a little special. It's not an embassy that's built on a corner in New York City, right? It's something that requires a bit more protection around it and more space, right? That's, in fact, there's a kilometer each side of the embassy needs to be cleared with a fence. And that's for all sorts of security reasons and protections and so on. The building needs to be to have integrity. There are like airlocks, for example, as part of the design, because atmospheres may be different inside than the meeting spaces and things like that. So you want them to feel welcome, not like squished and perhaps like being too close to some of the people that may be freaked out by things, right? So it's built it has to be built somewhere outside of a city, logically, because of the space required. That means there needs to be support structures around it to maintain the building, and also people will want to visit this. So we will have a duplicate, a little scale, like a little smaller scale to scale down the expense a bit, but a duplicate that will be physically visitable outside of the actual embassy space. Because you have to understand also, it's extraterritorial space. That means if you step on there, you're actually trespassing on extraterritorial land, or extraterrestrial land, like whatever nation or planet, because that's how the law works, right? If you go to the Canadian embassy, I'm assuming most of you are probably in the States, you're stepping onto Canadian land, right? Because that's the Canadian embassy. It belongs to Canada. So if we build an embassy for ETs and give it extraterritoriality, it means that land belongs to that extraterrestrial civilization, and the building also belongs to them, right? So that's why it's restricted access. We don't know their requirements until they visit and kind of tell us directly what's going on, how they want to proceed and whatnot, right? So there will be some people in the building as caretakers, because until they visit, we need some people that have it there, but they'll be very restricted access. So we'll be building a convention center, condos, places to sell food, like restaurants and purveyors and things like that. So there's going to be a whole village around it, right, as part of the design. And in fact, one of the designs, I can share my screen, I think. Yes, I do. One of the designs is circular, like this. And since we're changing the designs, and it really depends on the land itself, it may not be circular. It could be hexagonal. It could be square. This is just kind of a concept. And you see these structures in white. This is like more futuristic, building kind of designs, but they are kind of that village convention centers and whatnot. And here you can see, I don't know if it's a bit too small here. You see there's a duplicate embassy right here for visitors and a visitor center. And the embassy proper is here, like right in the middle of that wall place, right? So that's the idea. That's the concept of it. And again, the architects are actually developing new blueprints and new that are a bit more modern, since the old ones were old, and probably also a 3D walkthrough, which will all be presented at the conference on October 7th, officially by the team of architects and the president, Danielle. So we'll be doing a public reveal there with the most up-to-date information. And if we're a bit lucky, and if the countries that have approached us are timely, because we can't force their hands, we may be able to reveal where or who's going to have accept. Right now, even I don't know who's in contact with us because it's so secret, right? All I know is that there's more than one nation that's been in talks over the past year or two, I think. I don't know if it, yeah. That's all I was able to get from Danielle, who he is in contact directly with others. And I've known Danielle for 25 years, so it's he won't tell me. he's very rigorous with his job and takes it very seriously. But we know it's probably not any northern nations because that's too cold. Reasonably, we want to have like a weather that's reasonably comfortable, which means it's probably not equatorial. Neither is it like northerly. Sedona is probably a pretty place. I heard. I know Zenka would love that.
Yes.
And a nice place.
Can set up the landing pad because you already know that.
Assuming the American government would actually agree and give land, which I don't know. Maybe it's not their style, no matter who is in power. I'm thinking more Latin America, which is very accepting to the ED concept in general. They probably, I suspect there may be one in Latin America that have contacted us. I just don't know, right? But I favor my chances if I would bet on it. But I just don't know. I can't even lie. So that's really it. And around that, I see in the chat, Belize would be beautiful. Low population, not low density. It would be a great boon to their economy. Probably the whole thing if you think like a politician. Yeah. So I didn't mention to Zenka a while back condos, because that's something that gets me excited. Because I want to live there, like where and as part, we are also entrepreneurs, so we are logical. Like, yeah, there's $50 million to build the embassy, but this whole thing is going to cost even more than that, like for the development. So we've been talking with developers, for example, that are into the project. They want to sell. I mean, they're in business. If there's interest in the area, and they can sell condos, they'll build them, right? So that's a way to kind of fund more development. And like Zenka mentioned, part of the ideology is to evolve as a civilization. It's not just to build a building. Arizona. Okay, thank you, Leo. So to raise consciousness, to do good things. So we have plans, not in that initial village because there's not enough space for that. Besides for the condos and kind of amenities to kind of support the embassy and tourism. We have plans to have what we call Scientopolis, right? And that's just a project name, so it's not necessarily what it's going to be called. It should be like that name, that concept. But basically, it's a small city that is designed to support humanity's advance in science and understanding of the universe, possibly near the embassy, or it could be at different locations, maybe several locations. And the idea of that is to hopefully evolve enough in our ideology that scientists and engineers and creatives and artists could go there and freely give their time to benefit the whole of humanity without any economic interest or concerns, right? So basically, a mecca of knowledge and understanding to help us evolve, perhaps in some cases with some glimmer of knowledge from the visitors from elsewhere, perhaps guiding us a bit. And that would require additional funding and kind of support to go at this later step. But so we are thinking a bit ahead regarding the future of humanity as a whole, as a unified culture that is in contact with other civilizations that are also more advanced than us, that are kind of looking in and treating us a bit like children, because we are immature and lacking in wisdom, and we need to learn, and we can develop that in that way. So I'm seeing questions here. I don't know if you want to go there.
This
talk.
Yeah, one of the early ones was why are you using a crop circle for the design of the embassy? Again, I also have the conference information up, and there's a 30% discount. I think, what is it, $40 for that conference to attend?
Yeah, the early bird is $40. So you get using that code, you get 35% off. So it ends up being what, 26, something like that. And it is for October, so it is far ahead. But if you those rebates have it timestamped to it, closer to the embassy, it's going to be more closer to the conference, is going to be more popular, and the standard price is going to kick in the summer. So it's an opportunity. I'd like to field that question about the crop circle embassy, because that's an interesting story from Dr. Paul de Virville. It's very French. That crop circle that really resembles that embassy actually appeared about 2 days after we showed the plans to our team and approved it. So our plans for that particular embassy preceded the appearance of that crop circle, and I think was that one in the UK. And we were very surprised because, we're not expecting crop circles to appear that resembled our design and our blueprint. But we made that first. So we thought to ourselves, well, because you don't know, crop circles, some of them are man-made, like literally, like they could, people can make them and then take photographs. But we didn't investigate whether that one was man-made or made from other means. But we kind of said to ourselves, well, that's probably a sign that they approve of the design. There's no proof as to whether or not that's a sign of approval or not, but we thought it was very interesting that the exact same design appeared like 2 to 5 days after we got the blueprints approved internally. So interesting concept.
Very, very interesting. So thanks again, Sylvain, for what you've done by really taking the original founders of this idea and then expanding it out to all the other organizations, because this is like a we thing that's happening. I want to dive into more of your life. I did want to I just want to share this video really quick. Hold on one second. Has anybody seen, someone emailed this to me this week. Has anybody seen the new, Dubai has come up with a future museum, and they have like a cool. Yeah, so the Dubai Future Museum is this circular building. It's totally beautiful. And yeah, they have like a landing port there. But anyway, so let's go back, Sylvain, to your life and how extraordinary it's been, and like how you've become the man that you've become is so fascinating.
Yeah, it's it's my story, so I don't find it that fascinating. I've been told it is. To me, it's just my life, so it feels somewhat normal. Um, but I guess the interesting bits relevant, I listed this, is that when I was really young, um, understand I was raised in a small town where there were more cows than people in Canada. Okay, it was like 700 people living there. Again, lots of livestock. It's farming community. My father was bus driver for OC Transpo, which is just a city bus system in the main city, but 45 minutes drive in Ottawa. My mother was a part-time teacher, so really simple. The youngest of two boys, nothing really surprising, but I somehow, and it doesn't come from my either of my parents, or maybe a bit from my dad, I suppose. But I had the sense growing up very young that I had to save the world, and it was actually terrible to me. Like honestly at the time, because I was a kid and I felt powerless to do that, and I felt that the world needed healing. It's a feeling, right? So when I was about 12 or 13 years old, then you become more aware of what's going on. You watch the news a bit more. I started having major migraines. I had major anxiety issues. So not so funny. But I had an amazing parents, amazing, educators, even though it's a small town. No, was it in Quebec? No, on Ottawa, near Ottawa, Ontario. So there are French communities there. And I was, living in the French community and near Ottawa. So what the psychiatrist told me is that while you're stressed out about everything, you have to find a way to manage that, right? Otherwise, you're going to go nuts, right? Because you can't cure the world. Like even when you're adults, like people can't do that. So I with help, in part from kind of understanding what I did, actually, what I was 13, what really helped is I read the books from Rael, from the Raelian movement books. Like I mentioned about, the project, the ET project originating with him in 1934. So I read the books and it gave me a lot of clues about, because your farming community, there's no ETs or anything. I mean, there's nothing like that. And we had libraries and that's it. Like this is like late 80s, right? There's no internet, nothing like that. Well, I read the books, like, oh, that made a lot of sense to me. And it kind of gave me some comfort. It's like, oh, there are other people that kind of like that want the world to become better and things like that. So it kind of calmed me down. And it gave me some insights about about like extraterrestrial civilizations, and perhaps they were present in the past. Kind of made sense with the pyramids, all sorts of stuff that I was reading about anyway. And so I've never had another migraine since that period of time, because I kind of found kind of a centering and understanding of humanity and the universe that I could latch onto. Right. But I still had no leads on how to save the world, quote unquote. I just was able to calm myself down. But those books were seminal for me because it also contains not only the story of where humanity comes from and, we were created and where the aliens and all that stuff, but also it contained like instructions on how to be a healthy human being. There's no one that, the theory from the book, which I believe, even though without scientific evidence, I just have believed over time, I suppose, that we were created by an alien civilization and they were mistaken for gods. And we hear we see those elements in a lot of the myths and legends and stories, and also religions and so on. That their presence is felt and defined and so on. Anyway. So that explained all that stuff to me, and you if you think that those people that have been dictating this book or these stories or these messages to a guy, if they were the ones that created us, well, they probably know how to make us healthy, right? Because the designers know how to do things, and so far it's been brilliant. So, and a lot of things that people do, like I know Zenka and some of you practice meditation and practice good health and good habits, happiness, and I mean that's really it. It's not that complicated. So we're doing fine. You guys are doing fine too. But anyway, I felt very very empowered by that. So that's my like early years kind of discovery in the small town. And then eventually I went to university, and then the internet happened, and all sorts of information got access to me. And at a certain point in time, after I was a high school teacher, because I got my degrees in biochemistry, chemical engineering, and then education. I got 3 bachelor's degree from Ottawa U. Never worked as an engineer or a scientist proper, but I became an educator essentially, and with access to the internet and more interactions, more understanding, more science, right, and discovery, kind of figured, well, there's something that I can do. Right, there are activities I can push out. I can become like an influencer and to help people change their mindsets and kind of think about the future, think about well-being. So beyond my activities with the Raelian movement, for which I've been active for over 35 years now. Yeah, about 35 years, nearly 35 years. There's other things I could do. So to try to quote unquote, I didn't think of at the time now saving the world, but more about helping the world grow and get into like a golden age era. And so I've been doing a lot of volunteering. Like I have a think tank to try to do systems change now. I have the Alliance, which helps build the embassy, which in turn is really a way to help humanity become one and unified and become wiser, meeting amazing people like you guys and other organizations that have the same ideas. It's not unique. There's a lot of people that figure stuff out. And some people have been told through channels or contact and things like that about these things. There's only not on one person. Many people apparently were told similar messages, right? Which I've discovered, right? Which is great. We're a whole community of individuals that are pushing the same direction for well-being and unification. And so since fundamentally I'm a teacher and entrepreneur, it's only natural for me to in 2019 to say, hey, Dan, we should make an alliance so that everybody can join in and do this together. And I'm good at that. So so I decided, well, let's do that. And that's going to be part of my contribution for humanity to make it into a golden age. Susie, the promo code is on checkout, just like on Eventbrite. So you'll get there near the end.
So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go into breakout groups. So if you're listening to the broadcast live, I invite you to come into the Zoom and we're going to get into small groups. If you're here in the Hangout and you don't want to go into the small groups, just don't hit enter. And Sylvain, please do not go into the breakout groups. If you're in breakout groups, wait a second while I put everybody in the right groups. So it's an equal number of people, and you're going to give someone the role of a timekeeper, and then you're going to have some moments each. You can divide it by 20 minutes with the people in your group to talk about what messages you have channeled from Galactic. So what messages, Sylvain, and we have a question down here that we're going to answer, like what were some of the messages that were channeled? You can also talk about your contact experience or support that you're needing in your life. Please don't interrupt the person speaking. They can just share what they want to share. And if they want feedback, they can ask for it. So I pass this back to you, Sylvain. And thank you for dedicating your life to growth and to education and to creating this golden age that we're all here to do. So tell us about what you know about what has been channeled about this and anything that you want to share about that. And I'm going to put everybody in breakout groups.
So I should answer now? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, here's the funny thing. I'm not an experiencer. Whoops. Am I not joining? No.
Yeah. Don't join.
Don't join. Okay. Thank you. Just want to be sure.
Very important.
I'm not an experiencer, and I've always wanted to be one. I thought that would be really cool. I haven't, to my knowledge, I haven't consciously received any message, telepathic or otherwise. Sometimes I feel like I'm being guided, but that could be just me wishful thinking to be special. It could be just me. I'm built this way, and this is what I do because I do it. Um, so I'm very curious at learning about others that have had experiences, right, and listening to what they're saying, what they have perceived. And I'm a scientist at heart, and I don't have that knowledge, that experience, so I can't really speak from experience. And I remember a person a few months ago, he asked me, like, how come experiencers they have similarities between experiences, but there are also a lot of differences. And they asking me that, it's like, I'm not an experiencer. So I said, well, I'm going to tell you the scientific answer, which is varied. It's like, well, there's different possibilities. Well, there is a possibility that a person is actually imagining things. It is a possibility. It may happen, right? Either psychotic experience or imagination, dream state, whatever, right? But what if it's not that? Let's put that aside for now. Well, what if you are contacted by a civilization that is way more advanced in either communications or technology? What you're perceiving in your mind, we're like primitive beings that are interpreting something that's way beyond our understanding, or even the means of communication is beyond what we know how to use. We've had experiences like that with human beings, like Europeans interacting with very primitive civilizations in Polynesia, for example, where they see things differently from what actually is in front of them because they don't have a concept of what they're seeing, like airplanes and whatever. We're the primitives, right? So you're receiving something that could be sent telepathically, or sometimes it's described as extra-dimensional dimensional communication. To me, that could just be our interpretation of whatever they're saying or whatever you're perceiving, and it can be completely different, the reality. But it doesn't really matter because we may not even have the understanding to understand what's happening to us whenever that's happening, right? What you do feel, and what is common, though, with experiencers is that they feel universally basically the same things. Like they feel beyond the sometimes panic or trauma because of surprise and kind of like what's going on, because that does happen on first contact. But after a few, according to research, there's plenty of feelings, and they feel like there's a lot of love, there's a lot of peace. And there's usually a message that you got to work with humanity, make it better, bring happiness to the world, and things like that. Extremely powerful and uniform messaging. So, however we perceive it, and how we think it's this way or that way, to me, that's not really important, even though my scientific mind is curious. To me, the importance is also for us, like we know that if we want to meet an ET civilization, right, we need to become a wiser civilization because they are here. If they come here, and they are, all the evidence suggests that they have been here for a long time. They're observing and not disturbing us too much. They're doing a few things, teasing us a bit and giving us information, but they are peaceful. There's you can read, I published a paper at some point that kind of shows like there would be no reason for aggression from a civilization that's able to come here, right? They are, if you aspire to the Fermi Paradox, and I like to talk about Fermi because it's very scientific and kind of thinking, the solution that I think is most likely is the zoo theory of the Fermi Paradox. I don't know if everybody's familiar with the Fermi Paradox, where it says, well, if according to calculations and speculation, the galaxies should be teeming with intelligent life. And then he asks a question, well, if that's the case, where are they? Where's the evidence, right? And that was Fermi's Paradox. It should be teeming, and then we don't see anything, and we don't get contacts, actually, no obvious contact. So the zoo solution to the Fermi Paradox kind of states, well, we don't have a contact because they intentionally are not trying to disturb us. We're kind of like a zoo. We're meant to be undisturbed in general until we're ready, just like in Star Trek: The Next Generation, the Prime Directive, if you're familiar with that, and Roddenberry's work, like that's the theory to me that makes sense. Like let's not disturb them because they're a bit not ready. When they're ready, then we'll show. then will come when they're ready for the meet, and where there won't be too much panic, and there's going to be enough understanding and a desire for them to arrive. Because I think they're really respectful, because they could, if you're able to cross solar systems and arrive here 1,000 years ago, okay, you can do basically anything. You can appear in everybody's mind simultaneously, convince everybody that this is it, but it would be invasive, right? It would be disruptive. It would be forced. So the only rationale would be they're doing what they're doing on purpose. It's not because they can't, it's because they don't want to, which means they're waiting for us to extend the olive branch, extend a hand and say, hey, most of us are, or all of us are really ready for this. We want to meet with you. Come on in, which is part of the idea behind the embassy proper, right? The UT embassy. If we are able, and I believe we are, to convince national leaders at the UN to change the rules of the Vienna Convention to allow an ET civilization, not only earthly civilization, to get extraterritoriality and all the technical bets, they have a discussion. They agree that the embassy that will be built will be, a proper embassy for diplomatic missions. It automatically means almost that we are ready as a civilization to acquiesce and to meet one, right? Because that's going to be hard. The UN doesn't move fast, and politicians don't take a chance, right? It's just by nature of our current systems. So if we're able to empower them with the knowledge and comfort that people will be backing them up, then they'll say, okay, well, let's agree to this. It doesn't cost anybody anything except the nation giving extraterritoriality, and let's see what happens. But then we're already a bit more mature at that stage. When we have that, we're able to have that conversation, we're already one step closer to get the formal contact. And then there are all these rules that every nation on the planet has agreed on in the Vienna Convention, plus the optional protocol that we would add on how this would work. So there's no idea about which nation has first dibs. It doesn't work that way. The rules are stated, and that has been established since 1961, right? So there's all this stuff going on that's just us preparing ourselves and getting our stuff together. I was going to say another S word, right? And kind of like questioning, okay, well, how about this? How about that? And kind of get it up. And while this is all going on, there's all these wonderful grassroots efforts like Costas and Zenkas and a bunch of others that are just getting people on board with meditation and synchronized meditation, which is slightly different purpose, direct contact through telepathy, and kind of like individuals kind of like making connections. Look, we're able right now, humanity, able to detect thought patterns using EEG. We have been for years. We'll be able to develop the sensitivity quite soon, probably, to have detectors in the room to detect thoughts. Okay, they were here creating life probably 1,000 years ago. They can detect your thoughts from wherever planet they're on, probably, right? So if you think about them wherever they are and they're tuning in and listening, they'll hear you. They'll get your thoughts. We'll be able to develop that probably within the next 100 years. They're way more advanced than us. So these efforts, these grassroots efforts, that's all of us working together towards that ultimate goal, right? The embassy becomes a goal to work towards, to bring unity in humanity and bring acquiescence and to do the welcoming. The embassy proper becomes a symbol for humanity. They don't need the embassy. The embassy is just work for us to kind of prove that we're ready in a way, right? And I suspect, because we won't be ready for all sorts of their technologies, their way to travel, they will use the embassy, and because our ambassadors will want to meet there. That's the thing they understand, a place to meet, right, with chairs and all that stuff. So it's going to be used, and I plan to be there when that happens. So maybe a bunch of you will also, but let's start with just a conference in October. Start with that, And then we'll keep moving forward and building up the synergies between different organizations, and our whimper will become a laughter, and then a roar, and at some point the whole world is going to say, hey, like, this is just logical, let's do this.
Yeah, what you're saying is so important, because I think you're right, and I want to clarify your call to action here. If it is true that we are in this collective soup and we get to experience whatever we want to experience as a civilization, we choose what we want to experience. If we want to experience World War III because we're watching TV, we will experience World War III because we're watching TV. Because remember, emotion is the driving force of reality creation. So when we put forth this project of an ET embassy, that catches, like you said, it's this iconic, incredible, mimetic, like, wow, conversation piece, right? Because it's something we all like, wow, wouldn't that be great? So it's very important that we spread the idea of this conference, that we go to that we go to the conference, that we spread the idea of the embassy, and that we start the imagination wheels. I mean, I remember when I first heard about it, it's like, oh, it's a great idea. It's like, and Mark Sims and all these guys had been like, oh, we got to do diplomatic relations because we don't want to just have like another war again. You know what I mean? So. This is our job as creators in this movement to really, I was talking this weekend with some people. We're talking about what it takes to create new things into reality. And the number one thing they said was, thank the universe as if it already happened, right? And if you can't in your heart be super excited when you say, thank you so much for the ET embassy. If you can't do that with an elevated emotion, which is completely important, then there's something in your subconscious mind that's not believing or not allowing or not allowing, right? So this is something that we really have to start to realize. And what's going to happen is a logarithmic scale is going to, and that's what we're hoping to do with LightNet and Exo Metaverse and all these projects, ET Let's Talk, is like really show the world that there are hundreds of thousands of people who are having these experiences. It's here, it's happening, and it's absolutely beautiful because all of a sudden there's new answers to old questions. There's new healing to old wounds. There's new adventures to be had, right? So I really like your call to action here, Sylvain, and you're like, let's have you tell us again, what is going to get this embassy on the map and happening, and what do we need to do? So 8 years, it's like, do all the countries have to agree to do this in the UN? Like, do we need to show them, like you said, that they're supported, that they're not going to be ostracized? What do you think we need to do?
Okay, a couple of things are a bit technical, and I'll keep it really short because we're dealing with the UN, it gets complicated. But in the simplest form, technically, all we need to add is what we call the optional protocols that adds language, and we have a suggested text, but it's really the UN that has to write it. That's the rules. You can suggest, well, here it is, and then they has to agree on it, and they'll have to rewrite. It gets ratified. There's a whole process in there, but that is the body that does this with the Vienna Convention. So we have to go through that. But to get that convention, to get the discussion, all we really need is two diplomats from two different nations to agree to call one. So to call a convention that has a discussion around the protocols, you only need two diplomats from two different nations. That's it. So you don't need 180 just to have the conversation. You have to have two, and then they say, okay, well, let's do that, and then they call upon the others to participate, and some may participate or not. That's how it kind of works. And then from there, there's meetings and discussions, and eventually the ratification, which takes a while. It takes a bit of time. Technically, though, to build the embassy, we don't need that. But we do want that because, like we said before, the idea is to get humanity to convene and agree that this is like as a planet, that this is a good thing. So we do want to go through that route. But on a technical level, any nation that wants to have the embassy built can give extraterritoriality without the approval of the United Nations. Okay, so you can bypass the BS. If we wanted to, and still get that. But we do need a nation that officially gives extraterritoriality. The danger with that, it's not real danger, but the problem with that approach is that that nation recognizes the land as extraterritorial, but other nations may not, case by case, because it wasn't a UN ratified thing, right? So we are going the path of most resistance, right? To get the full approval. But if all else fails, there is a way to get the embassy built properly for diplomatic relations and missions without the full United Nations being on board. But we'd rather not do that. We think it's way more powerful to do it properly with the accredited questions, which is why it's the plan. So to get there, and this is the more tactical and the reason why the alliance was built, and this is where you're looking at this. Okay, thank you. So we're now in 2022, which is the preceding those eight. There you go. Okay, so this year and next the attempt is to get that through the UN, right? The optional protocol. That's the at least 3 countries. I thought it was 2. Okay, maybe it is 3. Anyhow. So and then it gets ratified. So this is the first step, and like I said, we don't really need that. We can skip that and go to site location analysis, assuming a nation is agreed. And we are negotiating with more than one nation right now for to actually get it built, because they can do it without the United Nations even approving anything, right? So. So then then it becomes more tactical regarding building. Like we have architectural team and a city planner and it takes a while to get all through that. And for those who have been doing large scale developments, you sometimes you need feasibility studies, you need like ecological studies, and over the land is all these red tape sometimes that can be bypassed or not, depending where it is. So we're adding some time. Because there's some logistical elements to it before 2027, where we anticipate there's going to be time just in with the site, the specifics of it, and the approvals and red tape, right? And then, once that's all gone through, then it's planning and implementation. So that's more about the construction piece, which there's only about 3 years, and then the embassy proper, the city around it or the little town around it is functional and people can visit, and tourism, all that stuff, and the embassy is in caretaker mode, and patiently waiting for for the moment, right? We're not going to be the ones like pulling the trigger, so to speak. I'm pretty sure that's also an expression in the US, and tell them, okay, come, and then they'll come on a whim. We don't know how this is going to happen exactly. Is it like when you put the last brick, they're going to say, hey, thank you? And we don't know. Like, I have no idea. But they're the bosses of themselves. They're going to decide, when the time is right, and that kind of thing. So,
what do you think we need to do, Sylvain, like in terms of, okay, so we've got the legalities that have to be sorted out. We've got the 3 nations. We've got a nation to say yes. What about like, what do you envision around it in terms of like people training or staff training, or how do you feel like we can share the whole exercise with the world?
Well, in part, that's why the conferences exist, right? Like we're going to start with this one in October, and then there's going to be annual conferences. So that's to us to gather, celebrate, but also kind of share knowledge specific to the embassy project and where it's at that moment in time, right? So we can craft training and activities based on where we are at and kind of announce it at those moments. But there's no need for like specialist training, let's call it that, for this all to happen, because ultimately, an ET civilization is not waiting for us to advance technologically, or to build more stuff, or to have a building built. They're waiting for us, at least my perception of things, they're waiting for us to achieve a certain level of wisdom and maturity and welcoming. Okay. And this is what we hear from a lot of experiencers that have been channeling, receiving messages, including Rael. No exceptions. I haven't found any. Right. And that is an internal type of work. It's within us, within our power. And Zenka and several others, like so Metaverse, have been building the LightNet, right? And also the Fire the Grid. Thank you. The Fire the Grid project, where it's meditation for peace on a regular time. But that's a very powerful exercise, right? That can influence the whole planet. Many organizations are actually doing that. Right? I have spoken with Adam Apollo, and also about unify.org, for example, recently, about how we can also collaborate and kind of like amplify all this stuff. So everything that we're currently doing is propagating understanding, compassion, unicity, love, femininity. I don't know if you noticed, but all these characteristics are attributable mostly to women, like in traditional sense. So why not also more women leaders in politics and otherwise? I think that'll be really cool. Like, I would definitely go for that, because we do need more of those characteristics to be elevated and to be examples, and less machoism and chest pounding. Right. And the bottom line of what, because I told you the story of how I was powerless, right? When I was growing up, about achieving these dreams and these goals, I felt was not intellectual. It was just like a feeling I had to do things, and I wasn't powerless. And for the most part, the Rael and the Raelian movement, through seminars and trainings, because that was a lot of my exposure growing up, kind of following those people around. What I learned, and what gave me a lot of peace in my journey to create like the golden age, is that everything's connected. Everybody's connected. The whole universe is connected. Everything is balanced. And this is just scientific fact. Like, even at the quantum level, at every level you can imagine: gravity, waves, energy, matter, everything. And by the way, all matter is energy, and all energy and matter is wavelengths, interchangeably. And this is just a scientific fact. Ask any competent scientist, they're going to tell you the same thing. It's not metaphysics. Okay. So it's all interconnected, all in balance. So if you change something here, it changes something everywhere, right? Butterfly effect is another example of that. So if we want to have a welcoming planet, a planet of happiness and joy, well, it's really hard. I don't know if you've tried to change other people. It's pretty tough. It's nearly impossible. One would say it probably is, right? But we just happen to have a wonderfully designed brain that is plastic, neuroplasticity, right? We can change ourselves pretty easily. So if you change yourself to be a happier, well-meaning, compassionate individuals, learn from mom, right? Then you're influencing the whole universe with those energies. And that's something everybody can do. You don't need to build a building or raise money or anything like that. You can just do that. And that's massive. If everybody would focus on that, just making themselves happy and content and compassionate, we change the whole world. And the extraterrestrials that are looking, it's like, well, cool. Everybody's unified and at peace, collaborating and passionate. Let's say hi. I think that's really the training. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that invitation to invite this reality into our reality, and do it clearly from our hearts, and ask for that experience. So we have a couple questions here. We're going to bring people back from the breakout groups soon. One of the questions I didn't really understand, and we're also going to look at the survey results, was, have any star civilizations, this is from Court, other than Elohim, repeated the original 1974 contact reported by Rael?
I read that before, Mr. Fisher. I know Court is Court. All I can say is, like, again, I'm not an experiencer and I don't delve in the messaging. I just hear things here and there, so it's hard to detect for me, like, what's real, what's perceived. Like, I don't know. Like, what I do know is, like, because I know Rael really well. I've met with him. I've had dinner with him. You know, I have friends that interact with him basically every week, right? So, but so I know a lot of what he's been talking about for many, many years, and he's said, like 1976, it was asked that question kind of like on an interview, and because I saw the footage recently, it was kind of threw me back years and years and years. He was asked, like, is he the only one that was contacted by extraterrestrials? Are there others out there? Well, his answer was very curious to me at the time, but now it makes a lot of sense. He says, well, as far as I know, I was the only one that was contacted for this particular mission, but certainly others have. Well, now that I've met a lot of contactees, it makes a lot of sense, because they seem to each have their own little mission. Some bigger, some smaller, personal or not. Like, well, okay, that makes sense. So that's the only thing I can say. Like, whether it's, some of these people had contact and were told the exact same thing, I don't think so. I haven't heard of the exact same thing, but there's a variation on the theme here, like peace, unicity, harmony. We come in peace. All that stuff is a very unified theme, and that kind of fits.
So one of the things that we're going to be doing with LightNet is we're going to take people like Sylvain, who are incredible humans with open hearts and open minds, and ask them how they would prefer to make contact. Is it seeing a UFO? Is it having contact in your dreams, as you mentioned, telepathic contact, and then really sharing those resources and putting you in a small group of 8 that will help you have that experience. Because I mean, this whole spoon bending thing has really been like a microcosmic cosm of how this happens. And it's often when we're trying to ground and bring things into a new version of reality that we're not expecting, that our subconscious mind is like, no, you can't do that. You can't bend a spoon. You can't see an alien. It's very difficult to do without a loving environment. So we are the ambassadors right here, right now on this planet that are going to create this loving environment to allow people to get out of their heads, into their hearts, and to bring this into our reality. It's like, it's like the X Prize. They're like, we're not waiting for the US government to get us off planet. It's like, we need to build rocket technology and we're going to do it. I'm not waiting for the government to do that. So really, it's up us, the gas pedal is up to us, and it's up to us to keep having these conversations. And we hope that LightNet will be that source for anybody that raises their hand and says, I'm curious, I want to experience this. It's completely possible. And it's especially possible when we're in a loving group together and doing that. So I want to open it up to any of the members or people that are on the call today. We often share our contact experiences. One of the things we've been doing in the spoon bending is really sharing, what did you do that worked? And a lot of what they share is just like being in play, right? Like letting go, like just relaxing, right? And I think that that's the same, it's like when we got all the the status, the statistics working correctly on LightNet, we're going to maybe start to see that these consciousness phenomena that don't seem, that are phenomenon still, maybe there's a through line, because I think that that's what we've learned with CE5s, with seeing a UFO. It's like, you set your intention. Maybe you give gratitude for like, thank you for letting me see a UFO tonight. You surround yourself with open-hearted people, and then you relax and have fun. Because if you're like, why am I not seeing it? Is there something wrong with me? What's wrong with my chakras? Why is everybody else seeing it and I'm not seeing it? It's like, that is not, no, that is not going to serve you at all. So it's really like this spirit of play that's so important. And I wanted to open, we have John Martin. Oh, John, maybe you can share, because you're such a genius when it comes to being in that play. And music is one of the things. John uses. You cannot be in your head when you have music, right? You cannot be in that blocking mode where your head's like, nope, I'm not doing this. So John, I hate to put you on the spot. Do you want to share how you make contact? We can't hear you. And I also invite anybody else to raise their hands, and let's, use this final 15 minutes to share. I know Catherine also makes a ton of contacts. Susan, we have some heavy hitters on the call tonight. So what is your advice for people? Let's say someone has not experienced contact. What is the best way for them to do it? We can hear you now, John.
Oh, Zinc, I've been using music for the last decade to interact with our star family. I do it every night. I make it a daily practice. When I go out in the morning, I wish them a good morning. I don't necessarily see them, but I know they hear me. Tonight, I've recorded. I was working on the videos while I was listening to this incredible broadcast, and I had over 40 different energies that came tonight. And so I project music, I project positive thought and love into the universe. I've got hundreds of videos. I just did a 2-hour interview with Whitley Strieber. It'll be broadcast next Friday. So I'm very excited about that. And that goes into deep, a lot of detail into how I specifically do that. But project what you love into the universe. Give the universe a chance and make it a daily practice. And the universe will absolutely be in contact with you.
What do you mean, really quick, before we move to the next person? What do you mean project what you love? And I know when you do it, you're always like, thank you. But describe that. I don't understand that.
Well, I've been playing guitar for 50 years. So I started on my deck by playing music that I love, Bach, Ravel, Gershwin, original pieces. And while I was playing, I project this thoughts of positive thoughts and love into the universe. And as soon as I did that, literally, after the second session, a purple dome-shaped craft with a pink ring came directly over my home. It was amazing. Then 4 craft came, and then a giant cross and crescent-shaped metallic craft came over my home. They were the size of office buildings. And I've had hundreds and hundreds of these interactions. I've had multidimensional beings coming through portals. I've got pictures and videos of all of these things, and we all can do it. If you're a mathematician, then project your most elegant equation into the universe. If you're an artist, recreate your art in your mind. If you're a chef, create your best recipe. Whatever it is that really moves you, share it with the universe. That's what I would say.
Sorry, that's so beautiful, John. That's so amazing. Yeah, that's that elevated positive emotion. And that's so great. Such beautiful advice. Thanks for sharing that. Heather, you're next. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. It's good to be here with you in community. I don't want to go on too long because the story itself is pretty detailed, but I was born 3 months before the first harmonic convergence, and I attended the second one in the past couple years. On the last night of the harmonic convergence, I believe the Pleiadian and the Andromedan star system, they arrived. They're wanting me to tell the whole story, but I think it's too long. They put their hand on my head. You have to negotiate with them because they get excited, you know. They put their hand on my head and they gave me what they call a transmitter. And I've been using my voice. I can hear somebody typing. It's distracting me. I'm sorry. I understand that when I sing, it reaches many people in different star systems, and I'm looking for what you're creating, which is a community of love and support where I can utilize this gift, this transmitter, in the way that it's meant to be used. You want me to turn on my camera? I'm in my bathrobe. I okay. Hi. So, yeah, they want you to know that this is important. I've been trying to share this message about this gift that was given me a few different places, and people just kind of freak out and tell me I need a mental health professional. That's not the case. I've been to many mental health professionals my entire life because of this gift. It makes me ultra sensitive. So the transmitter is used to reach a large group of humanity all at once. Whatever I'm witnessing, whatever I'm listening to, whatever I'm thinking, whatever I'm singing goes into this transmitter, and it goes out to people who are, I guess in our woo-woo way would call it enlightened, soul family of the earth, that star seeds from other systems that have come here with this mission to absolve what's getting in the way of love. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I think I'll be more in touch one-on-one with your organization.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm so glad that you rose your hand, Heather. You can contact us at team@exometaverse.org. And thank you for sharing your message. And you're not alone. And that's exactly what we have to build, these communities, and not just, you know, these small groups of 8 or these loving containers, right? We need to get closer with each other as we move through what is getting in the way of love. Right?
I don't mean to interrupt, but they very much, this past 3 or 4 months, they keep saying you have to gather, you have to gather, you have to gather. And they mean bodies next to each other, because we've been doing the Zoom, the telepathy, and all of that is great. But our power is greatest when we're in numbers together.
Okay, that's great. So this thank you so much. So yeah, this should be a call to join the ET Let's Talk, right? Because on this map that we're publishing every month, you're finding, like, you basically get on ET Let's Talk, right? He's going to tell you when we open the surveys. Then you're going to say, I'm in Sedona. I'm going to have a gathering. If you want to put your contact information, could be a Facebook, could be your phone number, could be an email, whatever it is. And you can invite people to your porch, right? If you don't want to, you just publish that you're there, right? And in that, yeah, like the beingness, and that's what we're discovering too with the spoon bending. It's much better in person. Like, I don't even know if it's working really that well on Zoom, right? So it's like, we would rather have, if you're going to be on Zoom for the membership with the spoon bending, is just invite as bunch of people that you can to your house, right? And, you know, when, you know, they did these spoon bendings with 16,000 people. 15 was the number which minimum number that he would gather, right? So maybe it's 8, maybe it's 15, but try to get other people into this experience because it's so much easier, right? Okay, so we have 3 more people to go, and we just have about 5 minutes. So um, we're gonna have to be succinct, but we're gonna do Susan, Babaji, and then Mark. So here you guys go. Susan, we'd love to have you share right now.
I'll try and make it very succinct. My experience started with near-death experience at age 2 after the MMR vaccine. I'm going to keep it short. And I went into a coma for 2 weeks. The body did. I remember the crossover and coming back. So I remember the experience of being on the other side. It is so clear for me. It is the most memorable moment. And then several years later, when I was 17, I had an encounter with 5 Pleiadian ships in Niagara Falls at 1 o'clock in the morning on January 1st, 1971. And they were lifting off. They were near the Saradenbeck power generation station. And it's a long story, so I'll keep it really short, but I watched them as they hovered over this schoolhouse and then they took off. Several years following that, I started having these very long prophetic astral dreams. I always dreamt very lucidly anyway. And after the first experience of the near death, I had dreams of being in past lives as well. And when I was 4, I used to pray for 3 things. Well, first, for peace on earth. Second, for happiness for everyone. And the third thing was for a spaceship to come and take me home. And that was to the planet Sirius. So, and I had a vision in when I was 4 in grade 1 of how I was going to change the world when I grew up, and it was going to be through education and for the children. And we had to start with the children. That's all I knew. And that has been my fulfillment of that dream. So in these prophetic dreams that I had, very quickly, I saw everything that has happened already in the world and everything that's yet to come. And there was one main message that was given to me, and it still stands strongly. And it was, only those who consciously acknowledge the prime creator, God, as the source and essence of their being, as love, will survive the apocalypse that is to come. And I was shown that it started in 2020. So I will leave it at that. That's my note. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Susan. Thank you for sharing your downloads. Thank you for being an educator. Having these near-death experiences where you're going to the other side and you're bringing back data, that's such an incredible leadership position to be in, right? Because you've seen beyond what we're experiencing here. So,
no fear.
Yeah, have no fear. It's a very difficult thing to say. I mean, a very difficult thing to do, especially when we're getting it all the time on the TV. Turn off the TV. It's not going to be helping anything, right? So it's important to show each other love, show yourself love, right? And get out of fear. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. You remind me of Sylvain in that you've really been a bright light for people, and you're really creating such amazing stuff. So Mark, you're next.
Okay, thank you, Sylvan, for your presentation. It was very illuminating. It's a tradition here on Earth for explorers to exchange gifts. It's what we've always done. And in making first contact, we would have gifts, and we would hope that they would have gifts for us. Now, I'm in technology.
Hey, Mark, can you cut off your video because you're
really
cutting off?
Looking for is an anti-gravity technology, anti-gravity device, thereabouts. So if they were to give us something like that, our government, of the technology we need for a starship, if you present that as a possibility, if they make a first contact, and we'll give them whatever they want, if they give us the technology that we need, the anti-gravity, there's certainly proof. That's proof that they want to be our friends. Thank you.
Yeah, Sylvain, did you understand that? I think it was so cool, this idea that Mark was saying. So what he's saying is like, this is so good, you guys. So when we're ambassadors, like we should look at how humans do it, right? So how does Spain talk to Russia? How, you know what I mean? Like, how do these ambassadors talk to each other? And maybe we can talk about the gifts that we want to give, right? So what does Susan, who saw the plating ship or the Syrian thing, you know what I mean? Like, what does she want to give to them when they arrive? You know what I mean? Maybe we could create these in VR or something like that. And then what would they give to us? And I think Mark's saying like, maybe the governments would be more interested in creating this, this welcoming pad, right? This embassy, if they were going to trade secrets. And I mean, that's what some people believe happened in, with Germany. You know what I mean? They believe that this has already happened. And we know all this stuff. I don't know. And then I just want to put a pin on the fact that you're talking about having an innovation city, right? So imagine if we got the most powerful star seeds in this invention city around the embassy, channeling down. I mean, Greg Cameron will tell you all the Nobel Prizes and everything, it's all channeled, right? So it's like, we can get those people. But anyway, what is your thoughts on anti-gravity and this gift idea and things like that?
Well, just real quick, because I know time is short. I'm an engineer, so I'm all for understanding new tech, right? So I'm excited about that idea. From a realistic point of view, we can certainly think about what we're going to give them, because that's within our power to choose whatever we want to give. We can't dictate what they're going to give us, like it's in the same way that they can't really dictate what we should bring to the party, so to speak. So I unless there's an actual conversation that happens pre-meeting and then they kind of decide, oh, can you share this? Like, is it a trade? That probably unlikely to me. And another thing, just a thought, like if this is a meeting of love, because it is supposed to be akin to that, is there going to be a condition attached? Like, if you give us this, then we'll do this favor for you. That doesn't sound like a loving relationship to me, even though it may be shown as like a proof of, oh, yeah, we want to have an interaction. I'm not sure if that's, and I can't speak for an ET civilization. Like, I'm not a spokesperson, but it doesn't seem like they'll want to come under a condition that that we receive something from them in exchange and things like that. It doesn't seem like in the spirit of what we're trying to do, at least with the alliance. But who knows? Like I can't speak for them. I don't know what their minds is. Maybe they will bring gifts, including tech and knowledge and different things. Like, I'm assuming they're at least we're going to have knowledge. If it's not technological, perhaps some wisdom that we can use and kind of go forward. If I rely on science fiction and Roddenberry and some of the prominent science fiction authors, it's probably a bad idea to share technologies with us that we're not ready for, and they will know what technology that they can share that would be that won't put us in danger, and it could be anti-grav. Like, I have no idea. Certainly I would be excited in seeing that happen.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we're going to be closing now. I know it's late for you, Sylvain, and this is the second interview in a row you've done. And I want to close with 1 minute, where we don't usually close with 1 minute, but I want to close with 1 minute where we all imagine having personal interactions in this village that's going to be around this embassy in 8 years. Right. So let's all do that and imagine that tonight together right now. If you're watching this on YouTube, I want you to share in the chat what you want to do in this embassy and what gift you want to give. Right. And I encourage you to subscribe to whatever channel you're watching this on. So Catherine, you get to say just a few things real quick, and then we'll do the 1 minute to close this special evening with Sylvain.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Sylvain, thank you so much for being here. I so enjoyed hearing you again. I heard you one other time with Costa, and I'm so excited for your mission, and it's just so exciting. I know, well, I can only speak from my own experiences, and I am an experiencer, a contactee, and I've had experiences with many different types of beings. And the ones that I have experienced are very heart-centered, and they are filled with love. And the first thing that came to me when you were speaking, Sylvana, because I agree, is that the biggest gift that we could give them is being open and ready for contact through our own heart center, because that's really where they meet us, is through our openness and non-fear of them. So when we're ready for that, that is the biggest gift I think we can give them. You know, I think they're just waiting to embrace us, and they can't wait because they're our family, they're our lineage, and we've been with them in other dimensions, other planets. And when I see them, I can tell you, they don't look anything like the ones that you see on Google. There are so many different ones, and some of them are kind of mind-blowing the way they look, and sometimes even get a little scared. And it's like, no, just because we look that way, don't get scared. We just look different than you, you know? But it really is, it is so all about the heart and just being open to embrace them, because we're like their younger siblings, you know. They want us to just be one with them. And that's why I'm so excited about what you're doing. So
yeah, thank you so much. And I just want to say, you know, Catherine reached out, you know, we had a couple sessions ago, we had a call out to people that want to start guiding these small groups of 8 to make contact. So is it meditation? Is it hypnosis? Is it dreams? Is it CE5? If you are out there listening to this tonight, when we get the software done in a couple months, we would love to have you volunteer or get paid to lead a small group of 8. And you can contact us at team@exometaverse.org if you want to be one of those people like Catherine that's saying, okay, I've done this before, you know, light the way for someone else to do that. Now, Babaji, I did say that I was going to call on you, and then I couldn't find you. So you're the very last one. Great.
I'm here.
Okay, great.
I'll be quick. Susan said we had to love God. And that's really what it's really all about. Loving God with all your heart, with all your might and all your mind. This new age stuff is all about love yourself, but I think they're on the wrong track. So love God, loving God in each other, loving God in nature, loving God in the animals. Don't eat them. I'm in contact with them continuously. I don't go to see them. They are in me as me. So I'm no longer a human. I'm an ET. They want to take me, and they asked me to assemble a group of people. And so far, I haven't found anyone that was really ready to go. They said, you have to be ready to let go of everything. Don't even bother to bring your toothbrush. So where are we going to meet, and when are we going to go? They told me I'd be in the right place at the right time, so I don't give it any thought. I just hope I'm with all of you when it happens. But we're going to leave. I'm supposed to be on this ship called the Golden Dawn. And I get to sit in the captain's seat. So if you guys are looking for a captain, I'm here for you. Let's get out of here while we can. I love you all. Thank you so much for having me here today. I really, really mean it. I love you, love you, love you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, and to get connected, you have to stop your mind. And that's a tough one. I've got some techniques for you. I use prayer. I use colors. I use numbers. But when you can get the mind stopped and still, then you'll know that you are God. Goodbye. I love you.
Thank you so much. That was such a beautiful, beautiful message. Thanks for leaving us with that, Babaji. I love your passion, and I love your excitement. So as we close tonight, Sylvain, thank you so much for cementing in this idea of this embassy. Thanks for calling the rest of the organizations to the table. Thanks for spreading the word. Thanks for organizing the conference. Thanks for setting up the website, the store, the meetings. Like, you really are lifting a lot here, and we hope that we can help lighten the load, not only by imagining this now for the next minute, but just through our hands, through our time, through our support. And I did find also here on the screen how you can sign up to be a guide. And we have shared as well during the broadcast, which you can find on all the channels, if you need to go back and get that discount code to come to the conference to spread the word. So here we go. We're going to close with 1 minute. And I want you to imagine all the awesome things that you're going to do in 8 years at this embassy, and as if it was happening right now. Here we go. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you next Thursday on Alan Steinfeld's New Reality for our EXO Consortium. If you want to join and talk about what project you are working on for the EXO movement, email us at team@exometaverse.org. Sylvain, you get the last word.
I think it's been repeated many times. The word is love. That's the magical word. Love yourself first, right? Let it overflow onto others, and then do whatever you guys are already doing, following your own path, right, to achieve better humanity, better self, and eventually meeting our star friends in an official way. We don't all need to be like volunteering with the Alliance or helping Zinka or ET Let's Talk. We each have our own path and our own direction, and we can all help in all sorts of ways. And we're all in it together, working together in all these paths and just collaborating. That's it. And I think that's the foundations of a new humanity and how we'll eventually work in the future too. So all my love to you guys.
Thank you so much. We'll see you at the conference. The conference is on Zoom on October 6th. Okay. Good night, everybody.
That was wonderful.